Alright, we talked about the worst beatings, we talked about the most soul-crushing beatings on this channel, but what we haven't talked about is fighters who came back from soul-crushing defeats, and we're gonna start right off with Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. We all remember Islam completely nullified Charles. He knocked him down because of recklessness. It was in Abu Dhabi, where Islam is basically home. Charles just got outshined by Islam, who's the exact opposite of him. Like, Charles is the underdog who never lost, and wait. Charles is the underdog who had a lot of losses, but learned from them and eventually became champ, while Islam felt like the guy who was always destined for being a champion, and he never lost. Man, Charles Oliveira had to go back to Brazil without his belt, knowing that he just got, like, pretty much, I'm sorry to say it, but he got kind of embarrassed against Charles. He just looked like just another guy. Yeah, but then he went to Canada and fucking KO'd Beneil Dariush in the first round. A very impressive victory at a time. It did lose a bit of credit, in my opinion, watching Beneil get KO'd in the first again by Arman, because Arman showed us that Oliveira is not the only one that can do it, but it's still an impressive victory, especially before that Arman fight happens. We're gonna see, can he beat Arman? Maybe. Can he beat Islam? Still no, if you ask me, but like, that's besides the point. And we're gonna move on to Adesanya versus Pereira. And really, Adesanya versus Pereira was do or die for Adesanya. Like, he already lost to this guy twice in kickboxing. Like, you can't, and when he comes into your sport, and imagine you lose to him again, his legacy would perish forever, and he would never be able to step out of Pereira's shadow. He would never be able to forget Alex Pereira. He was always better in Izzy's like main occupation, because combat sports is a fighter's life, and it really has to hurt if another man is just better at you in that life. And like, imagine he dedicated his whole life to fighting just to always lose to Pereira. Like, how bad would that be? Well, he found out how bad it was, because he actually did lose. He was really winning the fight. He was up 3-1. And he got TKO'd in the last. He got caught. He got finished again. Then there was the rematch, which pretty much felt like just a formality. Izzy was a broken man. He was dead meat. He was putting on a mere facade for like being confident and all that, but in reality, he knew he was just there to get a paycheck, to accept he could just never beat Pereira. In the fight, Izzy was up against the cage. Pereira was teeing off. We were thinking, okay, Izzy's gonna get finished, and boom! That was the comeback of his life. And he regained his championship, he regained his pride, his respect, and he showed that there's equality between him and Pereira, at least in MMA. He knocked Pereira out cold. Like, that was bad knockout, honestly. Perfect knockout, beautiful knockout. He tricked him. Some people say it's luck, but those people are in denial, haven't watched the slow motions, If you still think Adesanya vs Pereira was lucky, or Izzy was actually about to be finished and not just tricking Pereira, you're just straight up in denial. Like, it's just objectively wrong what you're saying. But we're gonna move on to Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor completely humiliated and clowned on Dustin in the pre-fight interview, and this was a young Dustin who would take Conor's words to heart. He predicted that he would knock him out in one round, and he actually did. Then Dustin went on an 8-2 run versus top fighters, and in that run, he beat Conor twice. Once by KO, and once by, I don't know, fucking annihilation. And he really crushed Conor's spirit. Conor, who was already pretty much broken because of Khabib. Like, Khabib turned him into a ghost, and Dustin Poirier exorcised the ghost. There you go. And Conor hates him about as much as Khabib, who he lost really badly to. Actually, Khabib vs. Conor, if you want to hear more about that from me, it's in my soul-crushing defeats or my worst beatings in the UFC. I don't know which one it was. Man, Dustin Poirier just... I know just Conor always felt like he's better than Poirier. Like, okay, if he loses to Khabib, scary mountain Russian guy, but not Poirier. He's always been better than Poirier. Like, he calls him a little hillbilly, but Nah, he just lost to him twice, but must have stung. Actually, like, I'm getting this twisted. I'm supposed to talk about Poirier coming back from defeat, but I just like clowning on Conor, to be honest. So we're gonna move on to DC versus Jones. There has been beef between those two since forever, and they already had a fight which DC lost pretty clearly. And the second fight was scheduled and it got cancelled due to Jones testing positive. And this even wasted more time for DC's career. Remember, DC was not the youngest. And when it eventually went through, DC got KO'd. And Jones tested positive again, and it was ruled a no contest. But that doesn't change the fact that the knockout still happened. Like, you still lost those brain cells. You still... people still watched you being knocked out. People are still clowning on DC to this day for that. But DC actually went on to become heavyweight champion, and he beat Prime Stipe and defended Derrick Lewis. He did something which Jones couldn't. Of course, now people are gonna say, "Oh, Jones also became heavyweight champion. He's also gonna beat Stipe." But man, Jones had a way easier path. Like, Cyril Gane was fucking trash. Like, remember, like not remember. Imagine what DC could do to him. DC actually beat a prime Stipe. Jones is not beating a prime. He could beat a prime Stipe, but this right now is like the furthest from prime Stipe. Like, oh my god. Yeah, thank you for watching the video.